Hello, everybody. Welcome to another exciting episode of Jimmy's Jambox. We're here. We're back at it again, and we're going to get on into it. But before we do, as always, please make sure to like, subscribe, push all the buttons, do all the things. You know, I don't know where they are, but you do, and I trust you. And with that being said, here's a quick word from our sponsors. Organic herbs and botanicals, skincare and edibles, wellness for body and mind. The Brothers Apothecary. Fine teas and remedies. Ronald Records. From indie gems to classic hits, discover the heart of local music. With live shows all the time, up close and personal, and regular releases on their in-house label. Ronald Records. Supporting the community, one track at a time. All right, thank y'all so much for watching. Again, shout out The Brothers Apothecary, Ronald Records, and Portland Water. Thanks for keeping us hydrated. And with that being said, let's go ahead and get on into it. Here is today's guest.
Hello, my name is Julimar.
Hello. Thank you so much for joining us.
Hello, Jimmy.
Yeah. Why don't you tell us a little bit about, who you are, where you're from, what you do. Give us that Tinder profile of your involvement with music.
All right. My name is Julimar. Mm-hmm. I was born in Venezuela, but moved here when I was around 11. Mm-hmm. I'm an urban music artist. Mm-hmm. I make reggaeton, dembow, rap. I really enjoy mostly writing. Mm-hmm. So whatever type of music I'm feeling, honestly, that's what I make. But I genuinely like hype beat music. Mm-hmm. I love to dance. I love to have a good time, so that's mainly my focus.
Well, that makes sense after listening to your music. That's going to line up real good with the notes I have for the middle here. But let's start at the beginning. What got you into music initially?
I would say it's in my family. Mm-hmm. My family, there's a bunch of singers. In the beginning, I never saw myself as a singer because I would compare myself to them.
Fair.
And, I'm not a singer, really. I love to sing. But I would always compare myself to them. Like, I can't do that as well as them.
Yeah.
But I always had music in my family. Mm-hmm. But then, little by little, I realized, you know what? I do want to make music. But I had to find myself in a space where the type of music I would listen to, mm-hmm. I pretty much... Well, I started to realize the rap was pretty much what I was into. Mm-hmm. And that took some time to figure out, but...
Now, was that a present genre in your household growing up?
No.
Okay.
No.
So you kind of found out about it from outside sources.
Yeah, for sure. I was always so drawn to music. Mm-hmm. And I just didn't think I could make it.
Gotcha.
I didn't feel like I was talented or good enough to make music.
Especially when you're comparing yourself to low-key pop stars
my
in your
cousins
house.
that can sing Juan Gabriel, they have an amazing voice.
Yeah.
But I started to listen to, especially when I moved here, actually. That's because this country was very different from where I came from. My culture was different, the music, the food, the houses. So I felt very kind of alone, and I didn't feel like I had a place here. It was very, very weird for me as an 11-year-old, especially.
Understandable.
So music was what got me through it all, honestly. I didn't even speak English when I moved here. So I would just mostly listen to music. Mm-hmm. I had a hard time making friends and all of that. So one thing that got me through it was listening to music. And I would listen to music so much that I would memorize them.
Okay.
I would memorize entire albums of my favorite artists. Mm-hmm. And I never paid attention to that. I loved it so much, but I never saw myself doing it. It wasn't until an ex-partner was like, why don't you make your own music? You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And I was like, you know what? That's when I started I'm going to try to write something and see what happens. So, yeah, in the beginning, it was just really trying to find a way not to be so depressed and, you know, like I was so...
No, that makes perfect sense. And like, did you eventually start like meeting people through music like early on, or like did that not really happen until later?
Until later. Well, let's see. I feel like first I would just write freestyles and I would perform them in my car or in the park, whatever. But I would not finish a whole song. It was like I was testing the waters, you know. Look what I can do. I'm gonna write this verse and I'm gonna sing in front of a camera and see what happens. And then I started getting more comfortable with just writing. So I would YouTube everything. How do I write a song? How do I do this? And that whole work was by myself. And finally, maybe like after 2 years of just doing freestyling in the car or whatever, I decided to do my first song. But at that point, I was still by myself. I would find beats from YouTube, Beat Stars, you know. I knew nothing about producing, none of that. And then I finally decided to make my first song, like 2 years later after the whole social media stuff. And I used to work at US Bank. And one of my customers was a beat maker, a producer, all of that. So we would share social media. He followed me on social media. And he was like, dude, you do music? You're my bank teller, you know? I was like, yeah, dude, I'm getting to this right now, you know?
Yeah.
And then he's like, oh, I produced this and that. And it was kind of like that alignment, you know? And he was the one that helped me record my first song. And to this day, I still work with him. He's the one I record my vocals with. His name is Sean Teach.
Oh, yeah. Incredible. I dig that. Shout out Sean.
Yeah, shout out to Sean.
I love those connections you make when they're like one of the first ones and it just works.
Yes.
Like when you're like, wow, it's this many years later and it's still going well.
Yes. And
no, go ahead.
To me, it was just like, I couldn't have asked for a better person for the first time because he knew exactly what he was doing. Like he's very talented. He's been doing it for a long time. That's who he is, you know? Yeah. So he just showed me the way. And he did not make it uncomfortable for me. He gave me a first grade experience. You know, the first time you record your first track, you're like, fuck my life. Yeah. You get so anxious, so nervous. I don't know how I'm going to sound, but he made it. Oh, I had the best first time experience.
Honestly, that goes a long way. If you can find a producer or like an engineer with like great bedside manner, like don't trade them for anything. Like just start buying them stuff if they need better stuff. But like that is somebody where like as long as they're putting in the effort to match you, like that's going to yield a much better result in real time.
And honestly, that's what I try to look for when it comes to working with people. It's how you make me feel, how I feel with you, the energy you give me. Exactly. You know, because a lot of people are very talented. Yes. So many people are talented, but not many people are good at allowing you to be yourself. You know, so.
Yeah. I mean, there's a million ways to get to the end, but some people are more controlling of the process than others for sure. Yeah. Now, we're going to talk more about how you approach music a little bit later on, but I do have a couple foundation questions I like to check in with everybody on. And this first one is one we ask early, it's one we ask often, and it's definitely a crowd favorite. What was the first album you ever bought with your own money?
With my own money. So I remember, I don't remember which one it was the first one that I bought with my own money, but I do remember the most meaningful one.
Okay. What was that?
It was Daddy Yankee.
Okay.
El Cartel, the Big Boss. Oh my goodness. I was like, 13 years old, 12? And to me, that album was what got me pretty much inspired to keep following it, but yeah, I literally memorized every song on that album. And to this day, I can still, I have a couple of songs memorized from there.
I understand that one too well. I can still do all of This Ring by Tech Nine because I wanted to learn it so bad. I put the lyrics on my second generation iPod and just went line by line by line. With Tech Nine, there's a lot of lines. A lot of lines.
Oh my God.
He says a lot of words. Yep. And to this day, I learned it, I think when I was 17. And that was definitely more than a couple years ago now. I can still do every word from memory. I remind myself that I can periodically.
Yeah, I remember thinking, I couldn't understand why I was so drawn to it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like, can you picture like an 11, 12-year-old little girl stuck in a room listening to like hardcore reggaeton,
I mean,
but at that moment, I didn't know why I was so drawn to it. To me, it's just like, I enjoyed, it was like it was like for me, like playing outside.
Mm-hmm.
To me, that was my playtime. I loved just listening to music.
Yeah, that's actually a really cool way to put it.
Yeah.
I dig that. And then what was one of the first live shows you ever went to that was like specifically one you wanted to go to?
The first concert I went to, I believe it was Julimar, which I grew up listening to. Julimar, Wisin y Yandel, Daddy Yankee, Ivy Queen. Those are like my main pillars of who I've watched, who I grew up with. And Julimar actually came here. It was at the Roseland. It was like maybe like 15 years ago or more. But I couldn't believe I was watching him in such a small place.
Yeah.
Because I come from Venezuela. So for you to go to a concert in Venezuela, you got to have money-ish, you know?
Yeah.
Not everybody can just go to a concert.
Yeah.
So here, it's like he's right there. And the entrance was like maybe, what, $30, $50, whatever. And I'm like, is this real? You know, I'm watching him right there. I never could have imagined I could see, you know, my favorite artist so close.
Yeah.
So that was like a great experience, too, because I was getting used to living here. And now I get to watch.
Yeah, you're like, wait, this is part of being here? I think I could do this.
I like it here.
Yeah, no, I dig that. And then before we officially get into you in the here and now, do you have a defining moment where you decided you wanted to take music more seriously?
Yes. I first actually, I've always been drawn to cameras. I wanted to be on TV. Since little, my mom and I watched a lot of TV together. But the way my mom watches TV is very different from like how other people watch TV.
Is she just flipping channels every like?
No, like this woman focuses on their acting, the storyline, how I'm like, she's like dissecting everything.
Yeah.
So I feel like that's one way or another impacted me. And I'm like, oh yeah. And At first, I thought I wanted to be an actress. I was like, I'm going to be an actress. And to this day, I mean, I want to do a lot of acting in my videos. But I remember I tried to pursue being an actress. And I was like, something just... And I remember I was feeling miserable because I was not really pursuing what I wanted to do. I would apply for like an audition here or there, like apply as an extra here and there. But I wasn't doing like enough in my body, and everything inside of me was telling me, what are you doing? You know, like you have to do. So I was honestly feeling so miserable with myself that I just decided, you know what? I'm going to do music and I'm going to stick to it, and I'm going to be very consistent for as long as it takes for the rest of my life. And I really think it was me kind of hitting that rock bottom with feeling so miserable with my life that was like, I never want to feel like this again.
Yeah.
So that's what really made that change.
Oh yeah, I love that. It's cool because it seems like you wanted to perform in some way, like you enjoy.
I wanted to be an entertainer.
Yes, there.
Like I love entertaining people. You know, yeah.
Yeah, no, that makes perfect sense. Well, thank you for sharing that.
Kind of like Will Smith. You know, like he's a rapper, but But he's an amazing actor, and I love that. You know.
Oh yeah.
I see myself in him a lot.
Yes, very much so. Yeah. Hopefully you're not just going around slapping Chris Rock.
I know. That was wild.
All right, but now let's go ahead. Let's get on into more of the present day. And we are going to get a super easy one out of the way, or at least I imagine it is. How'd you pick your artist name?
Oh, my artist name is actually my name.
Okay, I had a feeling.
You know, I spend a lot of time. I'm like, okay, let's think of a name. First, I was like, I'm not going to drop a song until I have a name. But it was taking me too long to like something because I'd had a lot of ideas. So I'm like, nah, I just didn't like any of them. And I got to a point where I'm like, you know what? my artist name is not going to determine when I drop my music.
Yep.
Like I'm not going to allow anything to just keep stopping me from releasing music.
Yes.
So I got to a point where I'm just like, you know what? Let's keep my name. I like my name. And if throughout my career, throughout my journey, something just comes up, I feel like I'd be willing to change it if I love it that much.
Fair, that makes
but
sense.
If nothing comes that I completely love, I'm going to keep my name. And to this day, nothing has come up where I love it more than my name.
Gotcha. I dig that. I am curious, what were some of the names that didn't work? Do you remember?
I don't remember many of them, but I remember I had a list. Some of them were ridiculous. Like I don't even know if I want to share them. You know?
You're totally fine. I'm always just curious because I've definitely had a couple rough ones in my time too. So it's just always fun.
You always feel kind of cringe coming up with those
believe
names.
Me, believe me, I know. I have one. I'll tell you off camera. It is the goofiest name.
Damn, I wish no.
Yeah, but that's all right. Now let's go ahead. Then let's talk about your writing process a little bit, and we're gonna break it up into chunks. But we're gonna start right at the beginning. So when you get inspired, you're ready to make music. What are some of the things you do to get a track started?
Let's see. So if I have like something specifically that I want to say, then I make the beat first. It's always the beat first.
Okay. And do you make beats now for yourself, or are you still getting them from people?
I work very closely with my producer.
Okay.
I've been working with him.
Yeah, you got the one person.
Not Sean. He records my vocals. I have a personal producer.
Oh, okay.
He's actually also Venezuelan.
Wow. How did you two meet?
He lives in Colombia. So.
Oh, okay.
Do you know Karma? She works with him as well.
Gotcha.
She was like, when we met, she was like, dude, my producer's also Venezuelan. You should check him out. And I was like, no way. Because to make the music that I wanted to make here, I had a hard time finding people who knew how to make that type of music or how to feel it. You know, it's not just you're a producer so you can make this. No, you also have to feel it. And, you know, it's like especially me, that I like to make music to dance. So your body has to feel it. So I was struggling finding one. And she was like, dude, meet my guy.
Yeah.
And it's been such a blessing. Such a blessing to have. Anyway, so first I tell him, hey, I want to make, let's say if I already have an idea, I tell him, hey, I want to make a song. I need you to make me a beat that gives me sad vibes. I want to be able to say this and that, this and that. So he does magic. And he turns back exactly what I asked him for.
Oh, man.
I'm like, oh, my God, how do you... To me, I'm still like in awe of this man's work.
Yeah.
Anyways, so he makes a beat. Again, if I already have something I go ahead and I start writing. But if I'm like, okay, I don't know what I'm going to make next. What am I feeling like? And if I want to make an upbeat song that reminds me of being in a beach, dancing with somebody, you know, that you're attracted to, I describe him the vibes. Again, he makes the beat. Also, sometimes I go and look at songs that are kind of like alike or that have like the same feel vibe too. Get inspired from them. See what they talk about. I like to do my research. And then I'm like, okay. And then I just write my music. But first it starts with the beat for sure.
Gotcha. I dig that. And then when it comes to the words, are you pen and paper? Are you doing it in your phone? Are you freestyling? How do you go about getting those out?
I've tried to pay attention to when my brain is most creative. And that's definitely in the mornings. Because, you know, your brain is just waking up, it's refreshed, whatever. So I love pen and paper.
Oh.
I have a bunch of notebooks, you know, but sometimes I'm honestly in bed and I roll out of bed and I have this lines, you know, this verse is stuck in my head. So I just roll off the bed, I grab whatever's closer to me, my pen and paper or my phone. But it's usually my phone.
Yeah.
Weirdly enough, the times where sometimes I've come up with my best things have been driving.
Interesting.
Because I drive a lot. I'm busy. I drive a lot.
Fair.
So sometimes, like for example, on my way here, I was listening to a beat I'm working on, trying to come up with ideas. And I just talk to my phone if I come up with something. It's not like I'm typing, writing, but I don't know what it is about driving and in the morning that my ideas just, maybe because I'm just like so focused.
Yeah, your body
on the road,
is like,
nothing's distracted. I'm just free flowing.
Yeah, you get like that semi-autopilot, but you have to be paying attention. So that like active part of your brain is going.
Yeah, but one thing that helps me get to the finish line is dedicating 1 hour every day, especially when I'm working on music. If I have several beats I'm working on, every day for an hour I write, because I can't just, sometimes like inspiration doesn't come to you. You have to go to it, so sometimes I sit down for a whole hour and nothing happens. I come up with nothing I like. But to me, that's not wasted time, because I at least came up with something that gave me an idea to move forward. Or I didn't write anything I liked, but now I know I'm going to write the next verse about this specific thing that I came up with today.
Yeah.
So the beauty of consistency, that's really what helps me finish.
Yeah. Well, it's like you were saying off camera, you have to prepare.
Yes.
You have to. Yeah. I had an old coworker who said, because I used to work at Guitar Center for a long time, and I had this one guy who like, he was the only like not shady person that was making crazy numbers. And so everybody was like, oh dude, you're so lucky. You're so lucky. Cause he gets all these like big buying people and stuff. And he was like, no, you have to prepare to be lucky. Like, in intentionality, consistency, it's all so important, because like you said, even if it doesn't yield something in that moment, that's still reps. You're still working out. You're still like kind of showing up for your music, and music doesn't forget. You know what I mean? It's not like music's going to be like, hey, you didn't do good yesterday, so if you don't try twice as hard today, it's not going to balance out like that. You sometimes have to be there, even for the bad ideas, even for the moot points, because like you said, that you never know when that's going to be the spark of the next thing. Exactly. And at least you were there. At least you like made it part of your routine. Yeah.
And even when you're having a bad day, right? Like sometimes I'm like, I'm sad. I don't want to do it.
Yeah.
But I do it, and it makes me feel better. And it's like I first I do it because I know that's what I should do. That's what's gonna, but I don't think how good it makes me feel afterwards. And I'm like, oh my God. I'm not gonna lie, some days I just don't, because my brain is just fried and it needs rest.
Yes.
But it's rare the day where I'm just like, I'm not going to do it today.
Well, and even then your body will still acknowledge that. Like, you still had the conversation of, right now is the time to do it, but the best thing for it would be for me to go not do it.
Yeah.
And like that still counts as showing up for it. You know what I mean? Putting that thought behind it. Also, I appreciate that method, because that is usually one that you see a lot of like instrument playing artists do, like the 1 hour practice a day. Like, you don't have to write anything, but you're still gonna do. And so like that is how you get through the motions. That's your exercise. Then suddenly the next time you have an idea, you're a little bit more warmed up just naturally.
Oh yeah, and it's not just that I set an hour just to write. Sometimes where I'm like just stuck.
Yep.
I do the hour either to read the dictionary, so I learn more words, We need words. Yeah. That's how you make sentences, So I'm like, I can't even think of 2 words right now. My brain is just dead, right? So I'm like, okay, what can I do to feed it? I read the dictionary, or I just, for a whole hour, I listen to music that inspires me. And I get an idea here and there, but I'm doing something intentional to move forward. Yes. And it's not like that every time I'm just writing for an hour. Most of the time, yeah. But some days I just read, or I read a book that has to do with music. Yep. But it's something towards it.
Exactly. No, I love that. I try not to share too many of my own stories, just because this is applicable. A long time ago now, I was trying to figure out making my own music, doing all this. And so I decided I was going to do a 30-day song. So beginning of 30 days, I was going to start a track. The end of 30 days, it was going to be done. I was going to release it no matter where it was. So every day, I had to sit down with it. And same thing. There would be some days where I just would not land on it. And by the time the track was done, it was real weird. I did not need to spend 30 days on this. It became like 7.5 minutes. Yeah. There was like a speech that was in a different language at one point. Like, it was a whole thing. But the biggest thing, because by the time I was done, the takeaway was not the song. The song was not great. Like, I don't even still have it.
but I learned so many cool things in that time. Like I learned new techniques in Logic, which I'm going to edit to say Ableton now. And then like, I like figured out arrangement approaches. I figured out just kind of like new sounds, new layers, a way of like removing things to add things in. So the process of working every day for 30 days taught me so many things that I wouldn't have learned if I was just like, I don't feel like making music today, so I'm just not gonna.
I believe that's where the magic lives, in the work.
Yes, very much in the in-between space.
You want the magic, you got to put in the time.
Yes, very much so. And then once you get a track finished writing, so it doesn't have to be like recorded and released, but you've gotten to where you can kind of start memorizing it, getting it out there. How long does it usually take you to feel comfortable enough to perform a track?
Ooh, I feel like that's the easiest part for me. I feel like I'm really good at memorizing things, I'm telling you. That's how everything started. By the time I finish the song, I already have it down.
Okay.
Because I've gone through it so many times writing it. Like sometimes I need my final verse, but sometimes I listen to the whole song again and again until I'm like in the last verse. So I go over it so many times that genuinely by the time the song is done, mastered and everything, I already have it down. I can perform it. I already know it. Yeah, I always memorize my songs by the time they're finished.
Gotcha.
All of them.
Okay. So yeah, you're just good to go.
If it's done, I have it memorized.
Gotcha. Now, will you ever perform a track while you're still like working on it, or are you always like, I need to wait until I get it recorded?
No, I'm not that strict. Sometimes, like it's almost done, whatever, but I have a show. Sometimes I'm like, hey, yeah, I find it cool to show the audience, oh, this song is not released yet, but I'm doing it for you guys,
Yeah.
So way to connect with you in a way.
Exactly. I'm a big fan of road testing anything before it's recorded. But I came from like the world of bands, so it's like if we're gonna track 5 people doing something, we're gonna make sure it works. Like that was always kind of our mentality approach to it. So I'm always a big fan of putting stuff out before it even like goes into the studio.
For sure, yeah.
And then actually I did check out some of your music, so we're gonna segue into that for a moment. I jumped on Yield Spotify, and you've got a pretty good amount of music going all the way back to like, what was it? Why did my notes not update on here? Well, that's unfortunate because I definitely put them there. All right, bear with me for 2 seconds while I pull my technology out here. Yeah, they did not update. I apologize. And y'all are watching this in real time. Technology just doing me dirty. All right, so I checked out your music. And you've got music going all the way back to 2022. And you've actually got a pretty solid amount of music. You have been putting in the work. Tons of singles. You've got the one EP that kind of brought a few of them together. And the one thing I really like, and you already kind of pointed this out before, your music has this really cool energy to it. It's very hype. Yeah. Especially like there are some more like laid back ones, some more like felt ones. But for the most part, you've definitely got this really cool energy. And the one thing I did notice, and I really appreciated, is that you do very much walk in the world of reggaeton and rap. But neither of those things, like it doesn't feel like you're trying to ride the wave of either of those things. Because reggaeton definitely has its foothold right now. Yeah. A lot of people kind of brought it to the more forward. But like you said, not everybody can make it just because they can hear it. And one thing I did notice, because I actually earlier last year, I was fortunate enough to have a handful of just Spanish-speaking artists come on the show. And when I was picking out songs, I would always pick out songs that were similar. So there were a few episodes I did that were all Spanish-speaking artists. I really got to kind of dive in and find out more of that culture. And one thing I did notice is that all of your beats, all of your approaches, all your sounds are very genuine. They feel very like natural and like they belong in the realm, but they also blend well together.
Yeah. And
I thought that it was really cool that like, oh my God, I've lost all my thoughts because of the technology. I apologize. I like your sound. I like kind of like what you put into it. But the one that really stood out to me is your newest track, the most recent one that came out, which is is it Peso?
Yeah.
I was so close. Cool. That track is wild. That track is so much fun. It's super high energy, but your delivery on that track is so like cold cut and precise. And it was cool because no matter how much energy the track gave, you were like the equalizer. So listening through it, it's like I felt like I could go and like build a car or just drive. You know what I mean? Like it like kind of existed in all of these spaces in a really cool way. And so it's a really fun track. I really enjoy it.
Yeah, I feel like my music is very much me. Like I make it. Every song I have, I love the song. Like I love the beat. I love how it makes me feel. So it genuinely comes from a place of love and enjoyment and like joy.
Yeah.
And it's very much me. So whatever you hear is just...
Yeah, it's just you doing you. And it shows. Like I said, there is a really big intentionality in your music that does not go ignored. You clearly take ownership of everything you do.
And Peso Pesado is a bit different from what I've made. I mean, it's still high energy, so that's still the same thing. But it's not reggaeton, it's actually Raptor music. It's like, it's influenced in Raptor House, which is Venezuelan electronic music. You know, like Dominicans have dembow, Puerto Ricans have reggaeton, but Venezuelans have Raptor House. They've been doing this for many, many, many years, since back in the late 90s. But it's coming up again. Actually, DJ Baba was the creator of Raptor House, and he has been on tour. What's that called when they have the DJ in the middle?
Oh, is a Boiler Room?
Yes.
Yeah.
He did a Boiler Room, and that went viral, you know?
Those are hot right now.
Yes.
Yeah.
So ever since then, it has been like popping off more. And I was telling my producer, I was like, I don't just want to make reggaeton. I feel like, yeah, I love reggaeton. Like, I genuinely love that. That's pretty much what I listen to on a regular day. But I'm like, I feel like my music has something different. And I don't know, I was describing to him, I was like, I feel like my music is drums, it's dark but high energy, it's like loud, you feel it. And I was describing him, I also love instruments. I love salsa, merengue. I was like, I love that too, and that describes who I am. How do we put all of this together in a sound, you know? And he was like, Marica, you're talking about Raptor House. You're pretty much describing this. And he sent me a track of that type of music, and I'm like, oh my god,
you're like, this is literally it.
Wow.
Yeah,
it's like I described it to the T, you know. So that was my first try, I guess, at making something like that.
Well, it fits really well. Like,
and I met people, and I met the DJ Baba. We are talking back and forth. We're trying to make a song together, which is, I'm like, oh my god, I can't believe he's even talking to me, you know. But it brought me back to my country, the people. I got a bunch of dancers for that song that live there. You know, they live that sound.
Yeah.
So that was such an emotional experience for me, honestly. I mean, I'm gonna continue to make reggaeton and all that because I just simply love it. But to feel that I found a sound that describes me so well, and it's also from where I come from, I was like, wow. It felt like a complete alignment in a way that I'm like, holy shit, this is, you know?
Yeah, very full circle.
Yes.
And I imagine that will, getting more into that realm and like kind of gaining a foothold there will probably get you a lot of good visibility like back in Venezuela. So like, when you go there, people are going to be like, hey, I know this person because of this.
Yeah, and there's now a few artists who want to make Raptor House. Because everybody just wanted to do dembow reggaeton because that's what's going on, you know?
Yeah, that's what people are most familiar with.
Yeah.
And just to confirm, is it Raptor House, like the dinosaur?
Yeah, like the basketball team, Raptor.
Oh,
the Raptors.
gotcha.
Yeah.
That is...
It's because of
that might be the coolest name for a genre I've ever heard. That is good to know. I'm gonna check that out on my own time after.
And
That's
you're gonna be
cool.
like, oh crap, what is all this? It's like a whole thing.
Well, like I said, it's cool to know too, because like I said, when I was checking out your track, it did feel different. Like it didn't sound like exactly like that stuff. But like I said, it felt very in your wheelhouse. It felt very but like to me, I heard it and I was like, oh, okay, so new year, she just wants to step it up to that next level.
Gotcha.
So to find that like connection underneath it, that's really powerful.
Oh, yeah.
But I am curious to know now, out of all of the music you have available, what are some of your favorite tracks of yours to perform?
Perform.
Yeah.
Ooh, let's see. I love all of them. I I love Respiro tu Aire. That's one of my favorite songs, but it's featuring one of my good friends, Huracan. I haven't performed it with him yet, but I love, it's not super high energy, but I love the words, the sound. But honestly, maybe Así Así is pretty, that's like, I always use that song for my intro because it's like, boom, this is who I am. You know, it's like the perfect intro. And Reloj, Peso Pesado. I would say that one, honestly.
I imagine that track is wild live. Yeah. That would be a really cool one to see.
Yeah. And it's like, especially if there's a good amount of people. Oh, my God.
Yeah. No, that's
pretty
rad.
hyped. So that one for sure.
Hell yeah. All right. Now I want to take a moment and I want to zoom out. I want to look at kind of more music as a whole. What are some of the things you're listening to right now? What are you enjoying? What are you getting inspiration from? What are you taking in at the moment?
Right now, I feel like the music I listen to is kind of based on the song I'm working on, kind of the vibe. Now that I make more music, I listen to music less, surprisingly enough. Yeah.
I've from asking many people that question, I found that does tend to be the case.
Yes. So right now I listen to a lot of Raptor House, and I'm doing, it's called kind of like merengueton. It's like merengue and reggaeton put together. So I'm listening to a lot of Juan Luis Guerra. He's an incredible artist. But to me, he's an amazing poet. Like, I love his writing. And this song that I'm working on kind of has those vibes. I want to be more poetic on it. So I'm not just like studying reggaeton, you know, like your typical like club music. It's more like sexual, more like more that type of music. But right now, I would say Juan Luis Guerra, more poetic stuff.
Okay, I dig
poetry.
Hell yeah.
And the crazy Raptor House.
Yeah, I was going to say.
So it's like a weird
mix. Have both. You can have both.
Yeah, and that's the thing. I love writing. I would love to just also, like, I feel like I could write a movie. You know, I can be I just love writing. So that's why I feel like I'm always so pushed to different types of music and stuff, because the high I get is what I can write.
Yeah.
Right? And it's just cool that I love my voice, and it's cool that I love to entertain people. But where my main thing is, my main pride or whatever, is my lyrics.
Oh, yeah. And actually, I dig that. You know, from the outside in, some people would be like, oh, she loves her voice. Ooh, cool. But like, it's crazy how many people in music, like, even after doing it for a long time, they like have a hard time like finding an affinity for their craft, for their abilities, for like how they're always like, oh, I could be better. I could be doing this. I could be doing that. I could be doing there. Yeah. But to actually like appreciate what you're doing and like how you're going about it, that is not as common in the world of music as it should be.
Yeah. But you know what? I feel like I helped myself there a little bit. In the beginning, I felt like I didn't know how to use it. I didn't know how to use my voice, right? So I'm like, how could I get to a place where I like my voice better? How can I use it better? And again, recording in the beginning was like, oh, I don't like how that sounds. Why did I say it like that? You know, but again, you do it again and you do it again. But I took some public speaking courses.
Oh, interesting.
I learned how to. I try to teach myself the volume, the melody, and your voice, all of that. So I feel like that gave me confidence to know how to use it. And then after I feel like I knew how to use it, then I want to use it now because I know how to use it.
Yeah, you're like, I got it.
Yeah, so.
And that's actually a really cool. I never considered like public speaking to be better at like, you know, specifically like the realms of rap and hip hop, where like it is still rhythmic, it is still melodic, but the ability to speak is kind of it's the duality of the genre.
Honestly, that's what I feel like gave me the most confidence of even just speaking overall, you know?
Yeah.
I would speak a lot less before. Now I'm like,
yeah, now you're like, I
love
this.
talking.
Yeah, you're like, I know.
love rapping. I want to use my voice, you know?
Yeah, no, I dig that. Man, that would have been, because, you know, I've done almost 700 episodes of this show. And when I first was doing it, like, I always had to have headphones on because I'm like, oh, I need to be able to hear me. I need to make sure that I'm like talking at the mic. I need to make sure I'm not doing this or anything weird. And then at a certain point, somewhere in the like 300s, I had to stop using headphones because I realized I was paying too much attention to what I was doing and not just doing it. But like, I didn't need to worry about talking too close or too far away anymore. My body just kind of got used to it. So but in the beginning, I was kind of in a similar boat. I was like, I would hear me and I'm like, nobody's going to like this. I don't even like this, but I got to do it. And now I'm like, oh, I get it. So, but I'm not here to talk about me, I'm here to talk about you. And this next question is probably the densest question in the interview. But we've talked about, your experience with music, the actions, the reactions. But when it's just you and music one-on-one, what does music give back to you?
Whew. What does music give back to me?
No pressure.
I feel like, to me, music means purpose, like my purpose. Because it's something that I aim at. I'm constantly aiming at it. Mm-hmm. It kind of feels like that's what I'm meant to do, to express, not just myself, but express feelings. Mm-hmm. Sometimes I make a song and it has nothing to do with me, but you will feel it. Mm-hmm. You feel what I say. So I think music gives me a purpose. It makes me, it always just feels like I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing. It feels like if I die tomorrow, I genuinely die happy doing it, even if it's just writing something, listening to something. But it gives me, honestly, it makes me want to live, like,
no,
like it's a big, yeah.
I fully understand that. And that is, I ask that question a lot. Like, it's the middle of the interview question for everybody. But I appreciate your answer because it feels very concise. But also, we were talking a little bit about this off camera, so I'm just going to kind of pull from there. Mm-hmm. But the ability to have something you can work towards that doesn't have to be anything specific in the end, like the act, the effort that goes into the creation being the important part, I think is something that it shows a lot of maturity in the creation of music, but also it's just a better way to do it. You know what I mean? Like if you are showing up for it, which you clearly are, you're putting in the reps, you're putting in the effort, but you're finding a way to have fun.
Oh, yeah.
Like that's like the difference between going to the gym and playing a sport. You know what I mean? Like you can go and you can build your body in both places, but one of them has an added activity that like really kind of brings a little more out. It has a sense of accomplishment. Yeah. And not to say that working out doesn't come with its own things as well, but like that extra activity really goes a long way. And
I don't just do it to do it. It makes me feel so full, so complete in a way that I'm just like, wow. Again, back to what I said earlier, I remember feeling so miserable with my life.
Yeah.
Like, no matter what I did or whoever was in my life, just something felt like it was missing. Mm-hmm. And right now, even if my whole life is just a complete chaos.
Yeah.
If I go do music, that like it's okay because I have that. Like I have equalizer. I don't know, like yeah.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for sharing that. But now we're going to go ahead and we're going to move on to some hypothetical questions.
Okay.
Yeah, and for these, sky's the limits. The questions are all made up, so the answers are allowed to be as well. But this first one is pretty straightforward. If you could work with any one person, the only requirement is they have to be alive. Who would you want to work with, and how would you want to work with them?
Who and how, you said? Who and how? That's a tough one. I feel like I love Adele. I love Adele. Mm-hmm. And it's so different from the type of music I make. But again, Adele, her writing to me is just, wow. Like I am so in love with what she writes that I feel, she's the one individual that makes me truly feel something. And I love that. I love making people feel something. So Adele would be the one person I would work with. And I can only imagine her voice with rapping. Can you imagine Adele and rap?
I mean, I could see it. I could see it. I would much rather see her in rap than like Taylor Swift. You know what I mean? No offense, Taylor, if you're watching.
First, thanks. I just can't even imagine that. So that's why I want it. I want it because I can't imagine it. So I'm like, wow, that would be.
No, I think that would be really cool. I mean, especially because like not only is she a phenomenal singer, like we can all agree on that. Nobody in the world has ever been like Adele, ick. But like she has a tenacity for music, obviously. She has the experience. She's gone through the motions. She's gone through a few different genres. Like she has lived that life in all its like ways. And I imagine the conversation would probably still be pretty like music oriented. If you were like, hey, I was thinking of doing this, or I was thinking you doing that, she would be like, let's do it.
I also love the delivery of artists. Like, and when you watch Adele perform, like, you know she's in that moment. Like, she's feeling everything she says. No matter how many shows she's done back to back.
Yep.
She is the moment. She is the song. And I feel like not many people have that.
No.
Like, you can have great singers, great writers, but not many people can just be it at that moment. And I think that's something so powerful and so beautiful that I'm like, wow. I would love to, like, share that space with you, and you know.
Yeah, very much so. And you know, I imagine she probably watches the show, so you'll probably get her soon. But subsequently, who's a local artist that you're aware of that you haven't gotten to connect with yet, but you would like to?
That I haven't to connect with yet. You know, recently I've met a couple of local artists that I'm like, oh, I want to talk to them. I would. But I didn't get. We had a show together at the Thesis, Rio.
Oh yeah, shout out to the Thesis.
Yeah, shout out to them, because that's how you got to know local artists that were also Hispanic. You know.
Yeah.
It's harder to find here.
Well, I thought it was cool that the one you did was literally El Thesis.
Yeah,
You know what I mean,
just all Spanish.
like actually put together like a whole collective of people in that realm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I feel like I've been the only one in Portland, especially the only girl. Well, Karma. Too, but that is just all Spanish. So I'm just like, all right, every time I perform my music, I'm like, just so you know, all my music is in Spanish because it's like rare, more rare to see in Portland.
Yeah.
So that was a cool experience to meet them. But I would say Rio. There's another artist, I believe, I'm not sure where he's from. I think it's Utah, I'm not sure, but his name is Santos Hawad. And I see that he's doing a lot of work. He's been doing this for some time too, and he does a lot of cumbia. Like, he just seems like a guy who loves the camera.
Yeah.
Too. That's what I like about him. I don't talk to him. We follow each other on social media.
Gotcha.
But I see that he loves the camera, and I love the camera. So I love when you can be silly with it or just be yourself on the camera. So I would say Rio. Doble D, I also just met him. I would love to make a song with him.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, there's a couple of them, for sure.
Well, everybody, you know what to do. At them in the comments. See if we can make that happen. And then for this next one, like I said before, sky's the limits, and it's pretty literal in this sense. But if you could perform anywhere in the world, and you wouldn't have to worry about crowd access or building stability or power, it's guaranteed the best lineup, guaranteed the best show, and it doesn't have to be a venue. It could be anywhere. Where would you want to perform?
Ooh. I would say in my country for many reasons. Well, a couple of them. One is because of the government. A lot of artists can't really perform. So the country is kind of like depleted from their artists. They don't get to watch their artists perform in their country. So, and I always hear so many stories of artists that are famous or whatever, that they do agree that one of the best crowds they've ever had was in Venezuela. Like, I feel like my culture, my people, we carry this energy, especially with concerts. Like, we go all the fuck out, you know? Like, we enjoy that to the next level of next level. So that's something that my country has been craving for a while. You know, they want that freedom to be able to have their artists perform. So I feel like it would kind of be like a dream come true to actually be able to perform where you're from.
Yeah.
Since it seems kind of so hard for that to happen, I feel like I would love to see that. I feel like people would make it even a bigger deal because it's something that they can't really have.
Yeah, exactly.
So for that, I would say.
Hell yeah, I dig that.
Surprisingly enough, you know?
No, that makes perfect sense. Also, I mean, I know this doesn't hold too much weight, but I have also heard that, like, Venezuelans go hard for music. Like, that is just, that is a place where if you're doing music there, it's going to be good.
Yeah, some people are like, oh, I'm Puerto Rican, but I popped off because of Venezuela. You know, Venezuela, because of them, that's why I got my very first big check or whatever. We love music, we love entertainment, and yeah. We're the party.
Well, when you go down there, let me know. We'll come with you. We'll get it all filmed.
Hopefully one day.
And then to wrap up the hypothetical questions, if you could get one more album from anybody, they could be alive, they could be dead, they could have not put out an album in 100 years, could have put out an album yesterday. Who would you want an album from?
Celia Cruz. Absolutely. Salsa, she's just dead now, but to me, she was one, again, I love how people perform. And she, to me, was one of the greatest performers ever. I love that woman. She is the music. Like, that woman has so much history, but absolutely her. Or Juan Gabriel. They're both dead, but
Fair.
Iconic people.
Well, hopefully they could both come back and do a collaborative album.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I dream of being in their concerts. You know, I'm like, oh my God, I can only imagine how this,
Fair. Well, thank you for sharing that. But with that being said, we're going to go ahead and start wrapping this up. What can we look forward to between, let's say, now and August?
Let's see. I will definitely be doing more kind of like Raptor House type of music. I'm also doing different types of styles too. So I would say a variety of styles of music and more like peso pesado. So very high energy stuff.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Do you have any shows coming up?
I have one in June. I can't remember the name. I just got invited to it. But they usually just come, honestly.
Gotcha. Okay. Then for this next one, go and look straight at your camera. Tell everybody how they can find you.
Oh, yes. You can find me, honestly, anywhere. Spotify, Apple Music, YouTube, my Instagram. It's under Julimar_Yummy But yeah, check me out.
Hell yeah. And then any other plugs, any other shout outs, anybody else you want to put on while you're on here?
Oh, like for them to...
Just, anybody you want to name drop while you're here. Yeah.
I want to give always a shout out to my producer, Hendrik. I love that man. I feel like I also am who I am as an artist because of him. He's been the most consistent individual I've met in the whole music industry. I mean, a lot of people are consistent, but so close to me.
Yeah.
That helps me and supports me, and we really just help each other out. Like, this man teaches me everything. Like, even if I'm having an issue, like, I don't know how to do this, he figures it out. Now, he doesn't do it for me.
Yeah,
he tells me what I can do or how I can do it.
Yeah.
So him, I feel like he has been such a great, how do you say that? Like,
And an integral part of the process?
yeah, like he's made me believe in myself 10 times more.
Gotcha.
Like he just brings me up. Like I know I'm like, the sky's the limit with him.
Yeah.
And it's a beautiful feeling,
Very much so. And actually, I was going to say this earlier when you brought up your two main people. It's wild to me how the smallest good team is just 1,000 times better than 100 people who can do stuff.
Because sometimes you work with people, but then things fall through. They don't work how you work.
Yeah, if they don't care
approach.
as much as you, it doesn't come out the same. And I know like there's some crossover there for like certain things, but like when it comes to projects like this, when it comes to things that are so deep rooted in passion, to have people that like they care about, if they care about their thing as much as you care about your thing, and then you two put those things together, it's not twice as good. It's 1,000 times better. It really multiplies.
Oh, yeah. And I've said that to him before. I'm like, before when I was doing YouTube, looking for beats on YouTube, beats or whatever, I would send a prayer out to God, the universe, whoever's out there,
Yeah.
I'd be like, okay.
The beat
It was like
stars.
finding a partner. I'm like, okay, I would like a producer who's like this and like that, who's like me and does this and does that. And I kid you not, later on, Hendrik came in and he was exactly what I asked for. And I'm like,
Yep.
I must have deserved him or something, but...
Well, I mean, you put in the work.
But you truly attract the people, Like,
Yep, you got to prepare to be lucky. And
Yes.
you've clearly been doing so.
Yeah.
All right. With that being said, I've got one last question to go. But before we do, I'm going to steal the camera for just a second. As always, y'all, please make sure to like, subscribe, push all the buttons, do all the things. I don't know where they are, but you do, and I trust you. And one more shout out to the Brothers Apothecary, Raw Records, and Portland Water. Thanks for keeping us hydrated. And with that being said, the final question.
Dun, dun, dun.
And this is entirely up to your interpretation. But in all of music, what is an album you feel is more on the obscure side? So it's a bit of a deep cut. It's one you think not a lot of people would know, but it's one you think everybody should know.
I would say Los Vaqueros de Wisin y Yandel. Maybe. It was a pretty poppin' album back then. But I feel like this generation is listening to a lot of the new reggaeton and blah, 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 that they have no idea, like, this amazing work of music that it came from, like, the root of it, you know? And I feel like that's like college. That's like the work of the work.
Yeah.
I would say that one.
Oh, yeah. Well, thank you for that wrap. And with that being said, we're going to go ahead and wrap.
I actually had the album. My brother gave it to me in a concert. They did the whole album. They performed it in a concert, and I got that live.
Whoa.
And I remember watching it so many times, having them perform live. Even the way they performed back then is different to how they would have vocals in the back. They were just them going hard, you know? And then, so I think it was even the way they perform music compared to the way people perform music nowadays.
The primary vocals as the backing is still really kind of a newer thing, and I can't wait for it to go away. You know what I mean?
I see sometimes I do it, but it's like I don't have my things is sometimes limited. Like I no longer have that song, just the beat.
Yeah,
you know,
you don't have just the instrumental.
Whatever.
Yeah.
But my goal is to bring that authenticity back. Like that's like the raw. This is what you get. Oh, I love that.
Yeah. I will say this, having talked to too many people at this point, I guess not too many, never enough, but so many people, the desire to move away from that definitely exists.
Yeah.
Like, will it take a long time for us to get there? Probably. But at least we're moving in the right direction where people are starting to realize, oh, I'm never going to be able to do it that way exactly 100% of the time. And people watching shows are starting to notice that.
Oh, yeah.
I say this all the time, off camera and on camera. Our audiences are getting smarter.
Yeah, and they're setting higher expectations for artists.
Yeah.
So it's like you gotta beat those.
Yeah, you gotta show up. All right, but with that being said, we're gonna go ahead and get up and out of here. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Of course, thank you so much for inviting me and I have had a great time.
Yeah, same here. And this has been another exciting episode of Jimmy's Jambox. I'm Jimmy.
I'm Julimar.
And we're signing off. Later, y'all.
Choo-choo.
That's a wrap.
This is not a podcast. This is a show.
Keep jamming.